Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let me make sure my sound and everything is intact. Hope everyone has a decent day or had a decent day. The day was perfectly fine. I gotta be honest, I was chomping at the bit to rush home to do the news. Because I had an idea on where the news was going to go today. Last night, going till like 4 in the morning, I was covering the story of the bombings in Syria. And back away from that for the moment, just to give a heads up. I've spoken to Tim Canova. Tim Canova will be here on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Yes. So that should be awesome. I hit him up today and he was, that's wrong. Be nice as can be. Hit me up very quickly afterwards. Direct, straight to the point. What would be the best time? What would be the best day? So, Tim Canova, running against Deborah Wasserman-Schultz, will be here on the Soapbox 1 p.m. Thursday. That is going to be an amazing interview. I am so looking forward to that interview. Like, you have no idea how much I'm looking forward to that interview. Next week after that, Jordan Sheridan is going to be here on Wednesday at 5 p.m. I need to confirm the time with him, but I believe it was Wednesday at 5 p.m. So, 2 really interesting guests coming up on the show in the next 2 weeks. So, both of those should be amazing. The thing I want to talk about today, I've been following and been paying close attention to what has been taking place within Syria. You know, with issues of war, I pop my head up. I mean, ultimately, I take a humanistic perspective of the world. What is the world that we need to get along and to have a sustainable, Star Trek-esque world? Even if not the technology. How do we get along? How do we end this idea of needs of human beings? And the way you do that, for all intents and purposes, at least in my head, I look from a humanistic point of view. You need a sustainable world. Human beings need to act or interact or have a certain value system that would allow the world itself to be sustainable. That's the way I look at the world. So I look at this particular thing that takes place and I say to myself, I ask questions. I ask questions. I don't get good answers to those questions. And part of the reason I don't get good answers to those questions is because if I go by the typical logic of mainstream media, something is off. Their logic doesn't make sense. The narrative doesn't make sense. And yet they push it nonetheless. As if just pushing it to some degree gives us some level of legitimacy or some level of even logical, rational thought. I ask people on this channel to think about what they're telling you. Think about what they're asking you to accept. And I'm making the point to you that it is unacceptable. It makes no sense. Now, I'm not going to do a recount of all the videos I did. I've put the last few videos, went through a lot of this particular content. I don't completely repeat the content. But without a degree in political science, without a degree in anything, you had an idea of what today was going to look like. What were Democrats going to say? What was Trump going to say? What were Republicans going to say? What was going to be said? Even if you didn't look at the news, you had a fair idea that heads need to roll. We need to do some bombing. This is going to be the defining moment for the president. What is Trump doing? Is Donald Trump a Putin puppet? You could understand all the fuckfest that was going to take place in mainstream news. Because for all intents and purposes, the mainstream news all goes one way when you're talking about issues of war. They don't ask questions. For all of their objectivity, for all of their, we're not pushed and prodded into anything. We're people. We have free will. We can do whatever we want. Yeah. But you all, for all intents and purposes, do the same thing. You're stenographers. Where are the questions? There are questions that should be asked about this. You're talking about escalation. You're talking about potential military action. Should there not be questions asked when lives are on the line and when you're potentially going to kill and murder and injure and blow up other human beings and property of other governments? Ben Cardin, Democrat, believes that there needs to be an international response for this chemical attack. Now, by the way, immediately after, just hours after chemical attack, the White House was out condemning the attack. Not the White House, but press secretary or element of the government itself was out condemning Syria for this attack that had just taken place hours before. This is maddening to me when I hear this. When I see this in real time, I think to myself, this is maddening. These people don't have questions. How on earth do they have any level of legitimacy as being reporters and newsmen when they don't ask basic questions? They don't ask questions about the Constitution, whether or not it's even legal. They don't even ask questions about the veracity of the claims of the terrorists involved, as if the terrorists are these noble actors who have nothing to gain out of the process. I understand being somewhat skeptical of the government itself, but shouldn't you also hold that skepticism for the terrorists? They don't. They don't. It doesn't come up. And beyond that, going back to 2013, the New York Times ran a story showing that they had these chemical weapons. They had the capacity to make these chemical weapons in the region. The story is known. The New York Times is not buried in some dark corner of the web. No, this is the gray lady coming out saying, hey, the terrorists in that region of the world have access to chemical weapons. The precedent has been set. If you know that, how on earth do you immediately jump to the conclusion that it's the Syrian government when they have nothing to gain from doing so? They've liberated like 90% of the territory. And all of a sudden, for whatever reason, he just wanted to get his rocks off by releasing some chemical weapons. That makes absolutely no sense. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Any person who's honestly looking at this from a perspective that is not just specific to the American interests in that particular region of the world will come to the exact same conclusion that this makes no sense. Making no sense in no way stops Democrats, however, from jumping on this bandwagon of saying something needs to take place here. There's been no investigation, but something needs to take place. We haven't even made a determination of what took place, and yet there needs to be a response. Good governance. Take a look at this. This has been... There must be a response, Cardin. Senate Democrat. There must be an international response to Syria chemical attack. Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, just to state up, in a Sunday show interview called for an international response to the reported chemical attack in Syria. Clearly, there needs to be a response. It needs to be an international response, Cardin told CBS Face the Nation. The BBC on Sunday reported that at least 70 individuals were killed in a chemical weapons attack in the Syrian city of Douma. Cardin, who sits on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, said Syrian President Bashar al-Assad must be held accountable for his war crimes. No investigation. But goddamn it, I know he's guilty. President Trump said on Monday morning, blamed Russian President Vladimir Putin, who he said is backing that animal, Assad. But Russia on Sunday said reports of the chemical attack are bogus. Cardin said Trump's naming of Putin on Twitter is a significant change. You have no idea how aggravating this is. It's as if I look at 2 + 2 and I see 4. And the media and everyone else is insisting to me that that's a 3. It's a 3. Believe us, not your lying eyes. It's a 3. What they're telling you makes no sense. That's all I'm saying. What they're telling you makes no sense. Cardin, you're a senator. You're a senator. I have questions. You're supposed to be my representative. Fair enough. Meaning, no, I'm not in Maryland, but from the standpoint of government itself, you're supposed to get your power from the people that you're governing. I'm one of those people that you guys are governing. So I have questions. Can I have questions? Seeing as being I'm the one that's being governed, and seeing as I have the philosophical responsibility of ensuring that my government is not doing bad and insane shit. I have questions for my government. I understand that you believe you have a good reason. Like, I understand that you believe the international community needs to respond because you have good reasons. All wars are started on ideas of good reasons. Everybody believes they have good reasons to do the things that they're doing. That's not really, that doesn't really do it. You have a second bar. So first, did you have an investigation to ensure that the weapons were Assad's? Is it true that terrorists in that region of the world had access to chemical weapons, meaning the similar or if not the same chemical weapons? Is it true that if the latter is true, which it is, that between Assad government, who has cleared like 90-something% of the territory, and the terrorists themselves who are getting their asses handed to them, that it would be more likely to terrorists who would release something like this, knowing full well that it would get the pull or impact of the United States getting involved in the process, not to mention the world condemning Syria? Isn't it more likely that the terrorists themselves in that particular region stand more so to profit than anybody else? These are just questions. The news aren't, they're not going to ask them, so I'll ask them. Going beyond that point for the moment, assume for the moment that the terrorists in that region of the world have those access to those weapons. Is it true that the previous administration wanted to regime change, meaning they wanted to get Assad out that seat? That is true, by the way. Is it true that they somewhat cherry-pick evidence, as per Seymour Hersh reporting on this, that they cherry-pick evidence in order to create this idea that they can hit Assad in this way, using somewhat cherry-picked, quote-unquote, intelligence? Meaning the Obama administration understood that the terrorists had access to those weapons. They also understood that it was more likely to terrorists, not necessarily Assad. Is that true? Like, because if that is true, if there's reporting on that, that's showing that to be true, then right off the bat, the premise for this puts into question, how do you know that this was Assad? That question rings. That question rings. Now, rational human beings who want to get to the bottom of something tend to have what's called investigations. Representative Ben Cardin, Senator Ben Cardin, did you have an investigation to come to the conclusions that you've come to? These are just questions. If you did not have an investigation to come to the conclusion, and if, again, not having that particular investigation, and you know that terrorists in that region of the world has those weapons, even going so far as to make the claim that potentially the United States was working with those terrorists who has those weapons because the United States wants the reason to get rid of Assad. I'm making a point to you that it makes more sense. The narrative that the media is going with sounds like a conspiracy theory. It makes no sense. That's kind of what I'm getting at. It falls apart just under basic questions, just basic rational questions of human beings saying, what is the most likely behavior of another human being in this situation? And if I was in that situation, what would I do? You can call him an animal all you want. You can say he's a bad guy. Fair enough. Him being a bad guy has nothing to do with whether or not he dropped those weapons. I would imagine those terrorists are also bad guys. And if you ask the people who are being let out, meaning the refugees, I would wager to you that they would prefer Assad over the terrorists taking over their country. I can almost guarantee it. I can guarantee it. African Americans vote for Democrats not because they love Democrats, it's because they're terrified of Republicans. Labor unions support Democrats not because they love Democrats, but because they're terrified of Republicans. I would imagine the refugees think Assad is somewhat of a bad guy and would like some kind of political change, but they don't necessarily want fucking terrorists to take over their country in the same way of Libya and the same way of Iraq. I'm asking basic questions to my senator because I think these are questions that need to be asked if you're going to make a determination that you need to somehow escalate and involve international powers in the same way you involve international powers when you turn Libya into a dumpster fire. Questions for my senator. Going beyond that, assume for the moment that you're right, which again, you have no proof that you're that you are because you haven't done an investigation. But assume for the moment that you're right. I have additional questions. You believe that you found a just war. Fair enough. But you understand that just wars, you're a senator. Even the name senator, the moniker senator, that title is given to you by the Constitution to some degree. You are bound and wrapped in laws. Now understand that you have in your heart this idea that you believe things. And in your belief of things, that this is a just cause, this is a just war. You can get international powers and you can create a world into your own and a fulcrum into your own in regards to what's right. Meaning the West making morality on its own, making determination whether to go into and out of countries on its own. What they say, the strong do as they may, the weak bear as they must. If a weaker country has done some of the things that Britain, the United States, and some of these other countries have done, those people will be in The Hague. They will be hung by the throat. But again, the strong do as they may, the weak bear as they must. The point that I'm getting at here is just because you believe you have a cause, the Constitution doesn't really care about what you consider to be a cause. It asks certain questions of you, meaning there's certain legalities associated with whether or not you can go and to destroy another country. Those legalities were ignored under the Bush administration. They were ignored under the Obama administration. And they've been ignored under the Trump administration. Just because you can do something is a different question on whether or not the Constitution allows you to do something. And if it does not allow you to do it and you're doing it, that's called extra constitutional. It's illegal. It's illegal. I understand you believe you have a cause. I understand all of you hawks believe you have a cause to get rid of Assad out that seat. What is your legal basis for doing so? Where's the legality of this? Where is it? We're in a country as we speak right now, illegally. We're there illegally. Donald Trump said we're pulling the troops out. And all of a sudden, oh my God, we have a chemical strike. Just so happen to have a chemical strike. And we don't need to look for evidence. Assad did it. Do you know that the last time that Donald Trump attacked Assad, Mathis comes out in 2017 saying we have no idea who did it? That's an honest answer. You need an investigation to figure out who've done certain things. You didn't have an investigation because an investigation wasn't the point. You wanted to be able to attack Assad. The military wants to get him out that seat, meaning you guys have come up with a policy of regime change. The problem with this is he's allied with Russia. And any idea of getting him out that seat runs headlong into the Russian bear. So you can understand me being somewhat skeptical and critical of you bringing this up, seeing as the consequences are somewhat dire. You need to prove your point. You need to prove your case. And not just prove your case from the standpoint of, did he do it? But also prove your case of the legalities of what you want Donald Trump to do. The United States Constitution is not this, the president of the United States is a king and can, for the most part, fundamentally ignore the laws, and he's not necessarily enraptured by a document. He is. Supposed to be. Supposed to be. My point here is, Ben Cardin, you have questions that you need to answer. And you have not answered any of those questions. You have not had the level of the bar that you need to cross. You've got nowhere near that bar. It's been days. There's been no investigation. You don't even know that the last strike was from Syria. And you've used the media's belief that the last strike was from Syria to come up with this idea of we don't need to look into it. Syria did it once before. Syria did it again. Let's do a strike. Donald Trump has already come out saying Bashar al-Assad is an animal and that Putin is essentially assisting Bashar. Yeah, and he is. They're called allies. It's in the same way that you assist Israel as they murder civilians, or the same way that you assist Saudi Arabia as they murder Yemenis. They're allies. Yeah. He wasn't alone in this. Howard Dean. Howard Dean also has comments. Right here.
You know something? You know something? If you had told us 1 year ago that we were going to come in third in Iowa, we would have given anything for that. And you know something? You know something? Not only are we going to New Hampshire, Tom Harkin, we're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. And we're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House.
I'm sorry, this is me being a prick. This is me being a prick. Essentially, lobbyists. This guy, supposed to be the lefty. Supposed to be the lefty. Not anymore. It's lobbyist Howard Dean. This is Howard Dean. Donald Trump says, if President Obama had crossed his stated red line in the sand, the Syrian disaster would have ended long ago. Animal Assad would have been history. If you had done your job consistently, this would not have happened. Why are you such a wimp in the face of Putin and Assad? What does that mean? What does that mean? Lobbyist Howard Dean, what does that mean? This guy was supposed to be the lefty in the other competition. And now, not so much. It sounds like, it looks like that his value system is purely transfixed to the party itself, which means they don't have a value system at all. If Donald Trump is somehow trying to create some kind of détente, then it becomes, well, we just need to be anti-Trump. If that means being anti-Putin, anti-Russia, and being some war hawks, then that's what we need to be. It's whatever's advantageous to us. He's literally saying, why are you such a wimp in the face of Assad and Putin? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. It sounds like he's talking about a war. I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means. And by the way, juxtapose that with this. They care so much. They're such humanitarians. Oh, the Syrians, we care so much about the Syrians. The ICC prosecutor calls for an end to the Israeli violence in Gaza. You don't really hear this much in the West. The media that's so concerned with the Syrians kind of silent on this. They don't care about this. They shut the hell up about this. The ICC, the International Criminal Court, you understand that Israel could be prosecuted on war crimes based on the technicalities of what they did. They opened to a crowd of 40,000 protesters with live ammunition, shooting people in the knees, in the head, and in the groin. The West shuts up. The West shuts up. Donald Trump has come out. Another strike on Syria could be coming. President Donald Trump blasted Vladimir Putin and Animal Assad for attack on Duma. Donald Trump has said he's going to give his response within 48 hours. No evidence. Nobody is talking about evidence. Nobody is talking about an investigation. Nobody's talking about evidence. Nobody's talking about trying to figure out what took place. They know. Evidence doesn't matter. Investigation doesn't matter. They don't care. It's besides the point. It's besides the point. And of course, you have Republicans looking into this. Here's something I found interesting, though. Donald Trump's base. Is Donald Trump's base actually on board for this? Donald Trump got into office saying he was going to be anti-war, saying he doesn't want to get into the business of regime change. Even recently, he doesn't want to get into the business of regime change. His poll numbers went up. He was like 42%. Now, on the other poll, I think he had like 50%. But I'm trying to make the point that when he's being those strong stances of, I'm coming back, I'm going to do America first, I'm going to get down troops out of that particular place, we're going to focus on America goods, etc., 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 he gets a bump. That's what he ran on, by the way. I even did a video. I said, if Donald Trump runs in this way, if this is the way that he's going to be from here on out, Democrats are going to lose. They have no answer for that. They're going to lose. That's sad to say, but they would lose. And now he's doubling down in Syria in this regard, meaning he's probably going to do a strike. The question becomes where? If he strikes Damascus, kiss your wife, kiss your kids. Kiss your wife and kids. These are his supporters. Alt-left, alt-right, Mike Chernovich. Should the United States take military action against Syria for their alleged use of deadly chemical weapons? 67% said no. Linger in that for the moment. You may call them racist. You may call them sexist. You may think they say things just to be provocative, thinking racism is somehow cool and trendy and all this other stuff. All of that may be true to varying degrees. By the same token, they're also anti-war. They're also anti-war. At least some of them are. They may be anti-war for different reasons than I am. I don't care if it's different reasons than I am. If at the very least we can agree that we should not have our forces killing other people in those countries. So, I thought this poll was damn interesting. I thought the poll was damn interesting. Because I realized I was like, yeah, I'm not alone on this. Like, there's some libertarians, there's some right-wingers who say, yes, I disagree with you fundamentally on everything you say about economics and everything about how we should arrange ourselves But I agree with you that we should not be in other countries murdering and killing people using our blood and treasure to do so. I think that's what you're seeing in that poll. Oh my God, you can't cite Cherno. I'm not citing Cherno. Calm down. I'm showing you a poll among supporters of Cherno who are supporters of Donald Trump. It's like, why would I ask a bunch of lefties this question? There would be no point in asking that poll. Hey, lefties, do you think we should bomb that thing? 99% no. No, I want to know what his own supporters think. Meaning the people who put Trump in that office, who put the vote for Trump, who say, yes, I'm pulling the lever, I'm pushing the button for Donald Trump. What do they think about him doing this militaristic intervention? Some of us on the left have made the argument that there are areas where you can work with the right. We've made that argument unabashedly. This is kind of what I'm talking about. His own supporters are like, oh, we don't like this. This is doing something you said you weren't going to do. This is doing something you said you were not going to do. So yeah, in that sense, absolutely. I'm anti-war. I just think it's futile because of all the fucking primitives that I know nothing about. No, just all the primitives. All the primitives. Sick religion SGP, how to join. All the primitives sound so fucking hilarious. Jamal, the Fox News poll of Republicans was even higher than that CERN poll at 70% saying no Syrian war. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. Is this something new? Are we seeing something new? Like a distinction being created. How can I say this? Like you have this kind of radical center that doesn't necessarily represent the interests of the people in the population. It's different. If you ask people what they want is different. Now, some people may trend to the left, trend to the right, but ultimately those people, a large majority, trend in similar pathways. Are we seeing a breaking of the center? And not just a breaking of the center, this reorganization of politics. I have a lot of right-wingers on my channel, and it shocks the shit out of me. I have no idea why they're here. Now, that being said, they disagree with me on some of the stuff. They may say, look, I agree with you 60% of the time. Good! That's all I need. Good. That's all I need. Let's just go from there. We can fight over the things we disagree with, but at the very least, can we just join hands, run in the sun, run in the daisies in this kumbaya moment on the things that we actually agree with? I love the fact that these people are anti-war. Now, they may come to different conclusions about anti-war. When I first started my channel, I had a gentleman on my channel who was full on into this militaristic thing of we need to take them before they take us. Now, I was saying something on my channel about how, like, organization of societies and everything else. And he's like, dude, he's like, it's the weirdest thing. I come at this from a completely different angle, but I end up in a similar spot. I'll take it. I'll take it. If your reasoning is different, but you end up in the same place, I will take it. I don't care at this point. These guys are fucking over. It's not left or right. It's both. Meaning it's Republicans and Democrats. The parties themselves are the problem in this. They're the bodyguards. They're the machines. That's the door you need to walk through if you're going to get any sort of change in this country. And the reason why I say the politicians themselves, the parties themselves, is because that's your gatekeeper in a weird way. Like, the money behind them, they're the gatekeeper. They're the people who are there to block, to tackle, to be the public relations person. When the Democratic Party needs to get people in, they move a little bit further to the left because they can convince their donors and their plutocrats that, hey, you need to support this additional incremental policy, otherwise I can't get elected. I can't get elected. They don't like us anymore. They're not buying it. So we need to get something a little bit more. They're public relations people. They're the intermediary between you and the people who are giving them all the cash. That's the door you need to walk through. My solidarity of no, I don't necessarily say it willy-nilly. I say it from the standpoint of if you want anything to change, you need to break that structure. Fear is the thing that keeps this thing from changing. I'm not going to go into the argument of no. I guess I'm just making a point that it gives me a certain amount of hope. That's all. And I function in this capacity oftentimes hopeless. Like, I look at what's taking place with this. And you don't have any John F. Kennedys here. Like, this is not John F. Kennedy kind of Because of all the times he tries to kill Castro. Castro reaches out to the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union put missiles in Cuba. Missiles are now on the doorstep of the United States. John F. Kennedy flips out. Oh my God! We cannot live with the missiles, the shadow of those missiles on our country. And was willing to go to nuclear war. I am willing to bring this shit to a halt. Civilization be damned. No, you're not going to have those missiles there. But you don't have a John F. Kennedy who can dip and dodge and has a political charisma that can get himself out of a situation that he got himself into. Or at the very least help to get himself into. All of these guys were functioning under, you know, certain ideas. I guess my point is, you have a reality show host. And you have a bunch of military generals. That reality show host is probably not really making a huge number of decisions. I would wager to you that he's just being told what to do. Not because I think it's anything nefarious. It's just that I think he's a reality show host. He has no experience with this at all. Why would anybody believe that Donald Trump has experience making decisions on this stuff? People tell him what to do. Last person in the room. I'll go this way. I'll go that way. With every so often a flare here or there that's the actual Donald Trump. On military matters, I would almost wager to you Donald Trump is not the guy making the decisions, or is not the power center in regards to making the decisions. Yes, he can pull the reins back. He is the president of the United States. But Willie is a different story. And most likely, he's going to follow their advice. A military guy comes into you. You've just gotten in office. And he says, Mr. President, we have all of these initiatives that are taking place. We need you to sign off on these. If you don't, people are going to die. A lot of people are going to die. Our people out there doing good work around the world. And we need you to put your name on this dotted line to make sure that those people are safe and that our Americans are safe at home. If anything happens and we are hit with a terrorist attack, they're going to blame you because you didn't sign this document. You didn't necessarily get behind this particular policy. You're a reality show host. What are you going to say? What are you going to say? For that matter, you're Barack Obama. What are you going to say? I mean, it's not specific. I'm not picking on Trump here. You're Ronald Reagan. What are you going to say? I'm saying these people have no experience in these positions at all. And you have these military brass with all these things. And you have this country that reveres and worships killing and murdering for the military. They should call it the Department of War again. They used to call it the Department of War. They should go back to that. That's more honest. It's far more honest. What do you do? What do you do? John F. Kennedy was able to pull back the reins. Mind you, there were certain experiences with the CIA blunders that allow him to kind of have the temerity to do that. And he's Jack Kennedy. I'm pretty sure he had somewhat of an ego about himself. Called himself fucking Camelot. Do you really expect that of Trump? And if not, if Trump decides to strike, where is he going to strike? And if he decides to strike Damascus, all hell is going to break loose. All hell is going to break loose. So, kiss your kids, kiss your wife. I like seeing that his base is against it, though. It gives me hope. It gives me hope. So, all right, guys, this is gone 30. I'm not going to keep this one too long. I do have a few more tonight. And I got to be honest, though. I did videos going all the way to 4 a.m. this morning, so I may probably not. I'm probably going to be back. Let's be honest. It's like I'm saying that, and I know immediately as I'm saying that, as the words are coming out of my mouth, I'm thinking, hey, you really wanted to do that video with Noam Chomsky, don't you? It's like, yeah, I do actually. I do want to do the video with Noam Chomsky. So yeah. Yeah. I guess I'll end this here. Yeah, it's somber. It's not necessarily the greatest of news. It annoys me when I hear stupidity espoused by political leaders, and the media carries the stupidity without being critical of the stupidity to which they're carrying. Ben Cardin. And hear Senator Ben Cardin for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Sound like Ben Cardin was getting tired towards the end. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, Ben. Yeah, Ben. Good luck with that. yeah, I ended on that. This bugs me. It bugs me on multiple accounts, and I find that it's to some degree dangerous. Under normal circumstances, I think when I was, and this is one of those transformations that's somewhat weird that I'm not all that necessarily familiar with yet. Under normal circumstances, when I was working a full-time and doing this, as opposed to shifting down to like part-time, the stuff that would take place was important, it mattered, but it was like being pressed behind a glass. It was kind of there, but it's kind of not there. And now for this, it feels like more present, or it feels like it's more I guess it feels sharper. It feels like there's more of an edge of danger to it that I didn't necessarily feel prior. And I suspect that that's what most people feel when they go about their affairs. I think the reason they don't necessarily see the seriousness of it is because they don't really see the seriousness of it. Like, they're so focused on their day-to-day things. They do their job, they have sex with their wives, they have sex with their husbands, they play their Xbox, they eat their Cheerios. They rinse and repeat, believing in this weird way that the reality that they live will always be that way, that they will be persistently that way. They may conceptually know that, yeah, things can change, but they don't necessarily know it in a flesh-to-bone way. Our houses have never been bombed, so it's not real. So it's not real. It's not real in a way that is real other places. So I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to keep this one too long, at least not any longer. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thank you, everyone. Oh, wait. Okay, good. Thanks, guys. I will probably see you back later, like 20-30 minutes.